The fluorescent lights of the supermarket cast a cold, sterile glow over the checkout lane. The steady hum of the conveyor belt filled the silence, broken only by the occasional beep of scanned items from the register. At the front of the line stood a young woman, her coat frayed at the edges, the once sturdy fabric now worn thin from years of use. Strands of her blonde hair slipped loose from behind her ear. As she bent over the counter, fingers working quickly yet carefully, stacking and unstacking small coins in her trembling hands, her eyes moved between the cashier and the growing pile of change, counting under her breath, lips pressing tightly together each time she lost track and had to start again. The weight of exhaustion pulled at her posture, but determination kept her movement steady. This wasn't just a transaction for her, it was a test of how far she could stretch what little she had left. Beside her, a little girl stood quietly, wrapped snugly in a red wool coat that looked a size too big. She clutched a single cupcake, its white frosting crowned with a tiny candle that flickered, despite the still air of the store. Her blue eyes sparkled with innocent joy, the kind of joy only a child could have, untouched by the stress that hung heavy in the air. To her, this wasn't just a trip to the store. This was her birthday, and that cupcake, small as it was, meant everything. The mother glanced sideways at her daughter, catching sight of the way she gazed lovingly at the cupcake, as though it were a treasure. Her heart tightened. She had wished she could afford more: balloons, a cake, maybe even a small gift. But life had taught her to find celebration in what was possible, and tonight what was possible was this cupcake, a carton of milk, a handful of bananas, and a box of tea. Behind them, the line of customers shifted impatiently. A few sighed, tapping their feet, but the young mother was too focused to notice. Every coin mattered. Every second of her counting carried the weight of responsibility. The cashier, though silent, couldn't hide the faint flicker of impatience in her eyes as the coins clinked, one by one onto the counter. The mother's cheeks flushed with embarrassment. She hated moments like this, the feeling of being on display, of her struggle made visible to strangers. She whispered an apology under her breath, though she wasn't sure if it was meant for the cashier, the waiting customers, or her daughter who deserved so much more than this fragile effort. Still, she kept counting, and the little girl kept holding her cupcake. Her tiny fingers curled carefully around the paper base, protecting it as though it were the most precious thing in the world. At that moment, the world outside, the bills waiting at home, the long hours at work, the uncertainty of tomorrow, faded away. There was only this line, this pile of coins, and the hope that it would be enough.